Hi everyone, I'm Shani DeWent, Marketing Manager at Equal Justice Works, and welcome back to another installment of My Impact, this time with Milo Primeaux, 2014 Equal Justice Works Fellow. We're here today to talk about how an Equal Justice Works Fellowship launched Milo's career and to inspire other public interest-minded law students to do the same. Thank you, Milo, for talking with us.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
What compelled you to pursue a public interest or a public service as a career choice?
Yeah, from the beginning. I identify as a queer trans person, and I was really actively involved in grassroots organizing and public education and policy advocacy work in Central Ohio, and with the local trans community and the statewide trans community. And it was such an exhilarating opportunity to serve the community in that way. But I couldn't help but feel, especially in a state like Ohio, that I could do more if I had more tools at my disposal. And it seemed like a law degree might be something that could really benefit me in that way and help me serve the community more effectively. So I started perusing legal careers that had to do with serving marginalized groups of people, and came across the idea of public interest law and public service. And looked specifically for law schools that had strong programs for that. And really, I just dove in to do the thing. And I mean, to be honest, the only reason I went to law school and the only reason I'm practicing law now is to continue to serve this community. It's the only kind of law I want to do. And now I get to do it. So that's a cool thing.
Awesome. So I just kind of want to briefly tell the audience that we have at Equal Justice Works two types of fellowships. One is the Design Your Own Fellowship, where you work in collaboration with a host organization to create a new project in service of a community or cause of your choice. And the second is an issue-specific program where a fellow can just jump right in and serve communities in need with immediate assistance. Milo, you did the second of these programs, the issue-specific program. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you made that choice?
Yeah, absolutely. So, during law school, just to take a couple steps back, during law school, while everyone else was looking for jobs and applying for jobs like reasonable people, I was being a little unreasonable, and I decided to try to start a nonprofit that would serve the legal needs of trans people. And so I spent my third year of law school applying to a ton of grants, trying to get that project off the ground. And when it became apparent that we weren't going to have enough money to really get it going as a job that I could have after law school, I went to work for one of the places that I had interned. I was very grateful to be doing it. It was a lot of fun. It was really interesting. It was in the healthcare context. But it took me away from exactly what I wanted to be doing, which was working with trans folks and fighting for trans liberation. And during that job, I got a notice that Whitman-Walker Health in Washington, D.C., which is a medical legal partnership that works largely with LGBTQ folks and folks with HIV, was looking for an Equal Justice Works AmeriCorps legal fellow who would tackle employment issues and barriers to employment. And they were specifically looking for somebody to work with their trans population. And I thought to myself, well, that sounds perfect for me. I feel like this was written for me. So I applied and hopped on the next train down to DC, and made a year of it. So it was an opportunity for me to get my foot in the door with the work that I really wanted to be doing and the people I really wanted to be serving. And even though it wasn't of my own design, it really laid the groundwork for the kind of work I would be doing after for years to come. So,
Do you have any memorable moments about during that fellowship, or any takeaways that carried you throughout your career?
Oh gosh, do I ever? Well, first of all, Whitman-Walker was an incredible place to work. The legal staff there were just so amazing. I feel like if there ever was sort of like a family feel in a workplace, if I've ever had that, it was probably at Whitman-Walker. We all had each other's backs. We worked very well as a team, and we were just really excited to show up to work every day, which um, you don't always get, it turns out. I've learned since then that doesn't always happen. So that was really cool. But the best thing about that fellowship was getting to serve such a large volume of trans folks in a really real and tangible way. So my job in helping folks reduce barriers to employment was to manage name change clinics that we held on a monthly basis. They were pro bono name change clinics. So we trained a ton of pro bono attorneys in the local DC, Virginia, Maryland area to come in and volunteer their time every month to sit down with trans folks and prepare all their paperwork that they needed to get their legal name change and to update all of their identity documents to reflect their new name and gender marker, which is a huge barrier to employment and a lot of other things for trans people. And so through that, I worked with over 250 trans people in the course of a year. And the thing that stood out to me the most about that is just all the in the ways that we have some things in common, just the different, every trans person is so different, and all of our experiences and our journeys are so different, and the barriers that we experience are different, and the perseverance and the resilience within the community to overcome all the different things and to be our most authentic selves was just really inspiring and beautiful, and it really drove me to do my work every day. I also got a chance in DC to work with very closely with a number of other really awesome organizations to train them and their staff on how to serve trans communities more effectively and respectfully. I got to work hand in hand with the National Center for Trans Equality, which does some really phenomenal advocacy and policy work across the country. We had Thai lunches on a pretty weekly basis while I was there to talk strategy and think about how we could tackle these issues in a big way. Um, just the number of people I got to meet and interact with and create real lasting relationships with, both personal and professional, are the key takeaways. I still get Christmas cards and birthday cards from the Whitman-Walker folks, and it's been 6 years, and we still very much keep in touch, which is really nice.
Awesome. So, what was your transition like after the fellowship?
Well, I wanted to, I either wanted to stay there and keep working there because I did enjoy the work I was doing, or to try to find some place where I could take my advocacy impact to the next level. So I started looking for positions with nonprofit legal services organizations that would allow me to have a wider impact for folks kind of across the board. And I was fortunate enough to work with the Empire Justice Center in Rochester, New York, based in Rochester, New York, that helped with LGBTQ advocacy across the entire state, but specifically in upstate New York, which most people don't realize. There's New York City, and then there's the whole rest of the state, and there's a lot of the rest of the state, and so we focused on the rest of the state. And the kind of work I got to do there just took what I had learned at Whitman-Walker and through the Equal Justice Works Fellowship and just like boosted it to several next levels. And one of the things that I really benefited from in the Equal Justice Works Fellowship was, it's such a finite period of time. It's such a short, 1 year, maybe 2 year stint. And you have to be organized. You have to have a clear vision, clear goals, clear goalposts that you can meet along the way to make sure you're on the right path during the fellowship. And that work plan, that practice of creating a work plan and meeting goals and building relationships served as an incredible foundation for taking on the role of the lead of the LGBT rights project at Empire Justice Center to create a work plan and really like execute it with a lot of efficiency and also a lot of, uh, you know, like passionate joy, which made it really effective. So I got to work there for 3 years, just about 3 years, and then I decided to go out on my own and become a civil rights attorney in private practice, which is what I'm doing now.
Amazing. And, what advice would you have for someone who wants to go into LGBTQ plus advocacy or even civil rights work? What advice would you have for them to pursue their career in those issues?
Yeah, what I'll say is that it feels like the landscape is small because it still is. You know, I think that even when I started law school 10 years ago, which is mind blowing, when I started law school 10 years ago, it really did feel like there was only a very small handful of jobs available for people who wanted to focus in this area and to do this work. And so if you could get in with maybe a dozen nonprofit legal services organizations or impact litigation organizations, then that was it. And if they didn't have positions open, you didn't get to do the work. And I think that's really changing. I see that we have a lot more organizations who are emerging to meet the ever changing and evolving needs of our community. We also see a lot of organizations that are not LGBTQ focused, but have a great deal of capacity and resources and reputation in a lot of different areas of work and the law that are happily housing LGBT specific projects and units and entire practice areas because they see that it's important, because they know it's important and they're prioritizing that. And that is really huge. And so if you're looking to practice in an area and you can't find anybody in that area to house you, the chances are good somebody would be interested in it if you pitch it. So, you know, if you build it, they will come. Don't be afraid to kind of go out on a limb for something new and different, even if it's not there and created for you already as a kind of cushy job description that meets your needs and your wants exactly. Go make the job description. There are a lot of firms and a lot of nonprofits that would happily house that if given the opportunity. They just don't know what they're missing yet, right? They don't know what they need. So be that entrepreneur within that context. And the other thing I'd say is, and this kind of goes for everyone who is in this moment of entering the legal career with the landscape such as it is, a global pandemic that none of us really expected to befall us. Um, Think outside the box. You don't have to go work for a firm. You don't have to work for a nonprofit legal services organization or an impact organization. Fellowships are incredible opportunities to gain a lot of resources and skills and organizational tools, and actually to like sharpen your entrepreneurial skills to develop something from scratch, which is really, really important and cool. But there are a lot of, really creative ways to do this work outside of those contexts. Some of the best JD minds that I know are really working the policy angle and the administrative rules and regulation angles that are having real impact on people on a day-to-day basis. But they're not the things that they thought they were going to go into when they jumped into law school, right? There's also a lot of us out here who are going into private practice, which I want to say for the record, I did not ever in a million years expect to be in private practice. You know, my entire time through law school, anytime they talked about practice management, IOLA accounts, all these things, I was like, I don't need any of this. I'm going to work for somebody who will take care of all of these things. I'm not going to need it for me. And I regret that now because it turns out that would have been very helpful to pay attention to. And the truth is, as somebody who focuses on the LGBTQ community, we are still few and far between. And so there are a lot of people who are over income for free legal services, but may not actually be able to afford a full priced attorney or a full market value for different legal services. And there's different ways you can create your practice so that it's affordable and accessible to people, while also keeping your business in the black. And that's actually what I do. My law practice is intended to capture those people who are over income for free services, but may not have a bunch of money to spend on an attorney. So all of my services are sliding scale fees, and they're all honor based. So somebody tells me what they can pay and I say, okay, and then we do it. You know, and I handle a lot of discrimination cases on contingency fees. So I only get paid if we win, which of course is an incentive for me to work even harder than I might already work. And I've coupled that with a consulting firm that focuses on working with employers and institutions to make their workplaces more LGBTQ affirming and welcoming to all historically and multiply marginalized people. And doing both, kind of having both enterprises going at once, I'm able to really get paid by the consulting work in a way that you know, only larger employers and organizations can afford to pay. And it helps to subsidize the legal work that I do over here for folks who really can't afford the services I want to provide them. So it's actually worked out really well to have both, but I also think you can have a legal practice focused on LGBTQ folks that even doesn't need to be subsidized. There's plenty of work to go around. There are a lot of people who need a lot of help. And they need an attorney who knows who they are, knows what they're going through, knows the particularities of how their sexual orientation or gender identity is impacting the legal issue that they're experiencing and navigating, and will pay money for it, right? And so, yeah, think outside the box, I guess is what I'd say. Don't be afraid to do that. You don't have to go work for, you don't have to kind of go the typical route. You can try something new and daring. And you know, there are a lot of people out here like myself who are happy to support you and provide mentorship and answer your questions, and you know, help you succeed.
Can you talk about a little bit about maybe the Equal Justice Works community or even the Whitman-Walker community and how we've, you know, uplifted you and supported you throughout your various journeys of your career?
Yeah, totally. So Equal Justice Works has always been an incredible partner. I feel like if I needed resources or to be connected to some folks that I feel like, you know, if there are any connections that I need that I don't have, I feel really confident that if I contacted Equal Justice Works with all the connections you guys have, that you could help make it happen because you want to see us succeed in our endeavors, you know, forever, which is really incredible. It's not just during the period of the fellowship, but you know, you've been an active part of my ongoing career as time has gone on. I've also had the distinct honor of being invited back to speak at the leadership development training for new fellows, which is really cool. I've gotten to do that a few times. And actually, in doing that, the very first time, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that connected me to a couple of other incredible women who I have now had the pleasure of doing a number of consulting and trainings with across the country. And we're kind of the dynamic trio at this point. We've become like a, um, a team to watch out for when we're talking about like implicit bias and microaggressions and things in legal practices. So, and I would never have made that connection if not for Equal Justice Works, you know. And Whitman-Walker, I can't tell you, I can't tell you how much I love them and how much they love me and how familial it all feels. Um, I'll give you a really quick, funny example. This popped into my head after the last question when you were asking about it. Did anything stand out? So this is kind of funny. I during my fellowship, I gave a talk at a a college for deaf and hard of hearing folks in the DC area, and they would create these really huge banners to display in the like cafeteria area to let people know when speaking engagements were happening if anybody wanted to come check them out. And so they created this enormous banner that was hanging in there with my face on it. And afterward, they're like, "Do you want this?" And I was like, "Well, I don't. I mean, I guess so. Like, why not?" You know. So I took it home. I brought it back to work, and I showed my colleagues like this life-size picture of me. It was enormous. And soon thereafter, I came to work, and at my desk was the cutout of my picture that had been framed in a very artistic way with lots of decor for like the season. I think it was like St. Patrick's Day or something. And henceforth, for every season that happened, my picture was altered to reflect the new holiday or the new season that was coming around the bend. And they sent me pictures of them with that portrait for years to come. And I think it's still there somewhere. I think they have it tucked away or in somebody's office.
That's really funny. We have a banner, a pop-up banner with your face on it. So I could send it to you if you're feeling nostalgic.
No, I also get people sending me selfies with that banner. They're like, "Oh, look who I ran into at the conference," and I'm like, "Oh, look, it's me from for many years ago." I know I have a lot of life-size banners of myself. I should have one here just for fun at my house. That would scare my partner probably. It's a little much. If you've never had the pleasure of having a life-size poster of yourself,
No.
definitely hang out with Equal Justice Works. It'll happen for you too.
Yeah, I'm in charge of making the banner, so I don't need to make one for myself.
Yeah,
But
you don't have one for yourself? What are you doing? It's like, you know, it really, it's it's a thing. It's an event. I really feel like you haven't arrived until you've had a life-size poster of yourself. That would never have happened to me if not for Equal Justice Works. So thank you for that.
Thank you for joining us, Milo. I think this conversation will be very helpful for students who are interested in pursuing a trans or LGBTQ plus or any type of civil rights advocacy career. So thank you so much for all the advice that you were able to provide here.
Awesome. No, thank you so much again for asking me. And to all the fellows out there, you know, go do good work, do good, be good to yourselves, and be creative. Think outside the box. There are a lot of us out here that are always wanting to push the envelope a little bit further. So you're in good company, and I look forward to opportunities to work with you in the future.